So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream with live peoples. While having a natter in chat. It's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I've doing a comparison between the old and the new Derwent watercolour pencils. So if you see them on sale and they're this colour, they're quite old. Now mine have cracked, but I've had them a long time. And if you see them blue, this is the new version. And looking just straight at them straight away, the wood is different, but that's because a long time ago there weren't restrictions on what type of wood you could chop down to make pencils with and furniture. So that looks a little bit different, and there's no bits when I shave the old one, but hey ho. And the strips mine look a little bit waxier. Let me have a look at another one. If you can see, those are supposed to be the same colour. Number 12, Scarlet Lake. Mine looks a little bit shinier, a bit waxier, but we'll see how we go on. So I've got the back page of my Joanna Christmas baubles. So I thought I'd do a couple of baubles and we'll see how we get on. I'll zoom in a bit. If anybody's got any questions, pop them in caps. We'll see how well we can zoom in without losing our... See if we can sharpen that up a little bit. That's fine. I've changed my mind because I want a green. I think I did them green, so let's have a quick look for some greens. I've got all mine in a Derwent art bag, but I put them in there because I want them to be... So let me have a quick look. Now that one looks like it's an olive, so we'll have... Sap green's always quite a bright colour. Mineral emerald green look quite nice. Or bottle green's quite nice as well. I think I might have to play this by ear. So there might be a lot of flicking of pencils, so apologies for that. So I want number 51 and 43. Thank goodness they're the same numbers. 51 and 43. So I'm going to do this one first. So I'm going to do half with mine and half with the other ones. That's bottle green. So I just use a little bit of a gentle action. Now you can use these Derwent watercolour pencils as a blendable pencil. But as a dead flat colour, I'm just going to put that down there for the minute. Now I have just bought myself a new pencil sharpener. This Comb long point pencil sharpener. Automatic long point sharpener. And I love it because you can take number one, you can turn it. Now a little bit of colour is coming off, but you take it. Oh, I've just lost that colour. Never mind. It's because I sharpened them with a blade and it didn't like it. I'm not going to lose that because that's all colour, that's all. And this is the beauty of these Derwent watercolour pencils, you can make watercolours out of them. So here is a green that I sharpened, so I'm going to pop that into there and get rid of the wood. So you sharpen it. Now, I'm not sure if I can do this, but I'll do one. And you just keep going. And you keep going. Until you turn and nothing happens. You're turning it and nothing's happening. Because you've got to the end and it says stop and it has a stopper, and when you pull it out, look at that. Now that's enough for me. I've lost a little bit of wood. I don't know how I've done that. Normally it just takes the wood off, and then you go in this one to make that pointed, but that's actually good enough for me. I'm quite happy with that. It's given me, it's got rid of the wood and it's given me a nice lot of colour, pure colour at the bottom of there. And especially when you want to do splatters or scratches with them, or you want to make dry stone walls and you wet an area and then you scrape colour on and it makes interesting contrasts and textures. So having this long point, and you don't press hard. It's not a strong, most pencils if you press hard they will snap, but my hands are not very good, so I can just about get a very soft flat area. So that's just the pencil on its own. So we'll take number 43, its counterpart, and we'll do the same on the other way. Let me have a look, see if I need to sharpen it. But all that in there is pure colour, so I'm going to keep that, and I'm going to make a watercolour now again. So the wood's reacting quite well. They've obviously got the right content for wood, that's good. And then you get to the point where you can't do that anymore, and you very carefully take that out. And look at that. And there is a little bit of colour. Now there is a slight difference. So it is a different colour. I did get the right one. No, I didn't. I got the wrong one. No, bottle green and bottle green. So they have changed the colours. Because if you can see the one at the bottom, it's more of a mineral green. It's a more natural. And the other one looks a bluier green. But I'm not surprised, because it's, you can change your pigments as you go along. So these are the two pencils, but I would think I'll have a look with this one. So again, just as we put them together, they may just look slightly different. Now that pencil sharpener is then going to take this to a point. So you can take it to the point, or when I take mine to a point, I will have some wells to put the pure colour in. And then that will give me a watercolour. So the first time I mix it, I'll have to mix it together, just with an old paintbrush, in a little well, with a drop of water, and I will have a pure watercolour in my well. And then when it dries, it's very similar to a pan. And that's all from just sharpening your pencil, and you're not wasting that colour, it's not going down the drain. They're not quite as waxy as the old ones, but you know, you probably can't always get the old ones. And eventually you'll get where you've got a flat facet, and so you don't get pencil lines. So you don't need that sharp point, and you don't need to waste all that gorgeous strip, because that strip in the middle is all pure colour. So I've done that one, and this is just a very flat colour. So again, you see, you can make out some flat facets there. That's my flat facet. So on the other side I have a point, and yet I've not wasted any. Sometimes you've got to find your flat facet without your thumb being in the way. Again, little tiny circular motions, and that looks to me that although it looks a different colour, when you put them next to each other, they're identical. That one's gone across blended without any difference. So they do look slightly different, but when you get them on the page, they don't. So let's just have a very quick look at the Scarlet Lake. So what you can do is just put a little bit of Scarlet Lake over the top. Now, I would have thought that was maybe a bit of a pinkier red, actually. Yeah, it's just a bit of a pinky red. Now, that might not do much now, but let's have a look back to the green. And the other nice thing you can do so I've got a bit of a shadow there, and I haven't put any just a little bit, just to make sure that we know that this is round. I did it with the wrong one as well. We'll have a little bit more green over that. So if you put water to this, because it's a watercolour, you will get that red will just make a natural shadow on there, so you can build up your colours so they blend really well. If I can remember to change colours, bottle green. Mine feels slightly waxier, but I mean they would have changed a little bit of something along the way, and it probably is the binder or the wax that they colour them. In order to get the watercolour onto the paper, they used to be dipped in a wax, and of course different chemicals appear, companies change things, so it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just a different thing. I'm not sure if this is how you do it with pencils, but I don't normally use pencils, so but there's a difference between just putting the green and putting a little bit of complementary colour, and that just, and you would do this on your watercolour palette. If you had a watercolour palette and you had the green and you were doing this, you would add, if it was watercolour, you would add water to make the middle, the section, and then you would have darker outside and build up the colour. In fact, I think we can have that kind of quite dark, that. And then when you wanted to put the shadows and the low lights, you just put a tiny, tiny, tiny speck of red into that green. And you can make a bauble look 3D. It's giving it a little bit of roundness. So you can build that up to a nice rich green. So actually colour wise this particular one is identical. And so we'll have Madder Carmine and Burnt Carmine, so I'll get them out and then I'll have to use them. So again, this is number 19, Madder Carmine. Just very soft. And this is why I don't like points, because you don't want pencil lines, or I don't want pencil lines. Just really, really little circular motions is just... And then we're going to put, oh, I've done that wrong, sorry. You have to concentrate. So you can hear this one a little bit, it's just a little bit scratchy. And I guess that's because it's a different wax that they're coated with. If indeed they actually do. But I have no qualms about the colours being different. And then a little bit of Burnt Carmine and I don't think that wax likes that wax for some reason. And you do just keep building up. I do like the texture of the older ones, but you know, they've gone now, so we've got that. And the other way to do it is to put a touch of green in. If you've got any questions, pop them in caps. Thanks for popping by. This is a live show recorded for Ustream.tv. Excuse me, and also recorded for YouTube. For people to watch at their leisure. So thank you everybody in YouTube land for watching. If you have any requests or any suggestions, please like and subscribe. Everybody likes thumbs up. So you can really kind of build some shadow in there. And that little touch of green is going to do something that no amount of red can possibly do. Now that technique works slightly better with oils and acrylics on a palette, but you can get away with it with pencil too. So you've made it really, really kind of dark under there with this red, and now the nicest thing about these, that when I was practicing, let me see if I can just put a little bit more green on there. So you can definitely hear the scratch of the new pencil. So they've definitely changed something, but the colour is identical. I think we'll have this red as well. And the beauty of these, which I have done before, so I use my next new best friend, which is the Derwent electric pencil sharpener, and you want a sharp end. Oops. So I don't throw these away, but I turn it over and I push that back in there, and that's going to give me a sharp edge. Instead of sharpening the eraser to oblivion, push that back in there, and then this is because you haven't activated it with water. Now it won't all come off, you'll end up with a stain because obviously these are so well pigmented. But you can get a beautiful highlight. Now, and that is not so bad. You can build it up and build it up and build it up. Unfortunately my thumbs have had enough, but you can take it off, but you can't do that once you've activated it with water. So there you have Derwent watercolour pencils used as a pencil for blending colours together. And then we have a number 1 Derwent watercolour brush. I need a baby wipe, I haven't got one, so I'm going to have to use, sometimes I use the little face wipes because they're tiny and the same just barely damp. That's what we want, just barely damp. And then just very carefully start with the palest first. Now this is the cover of this Joanna Basford, so it can take this, but then when you touch these, now I wouldn't have gone into so much detail before. If I'd have known I was going to wet it, I just decided to do that to show what happens. And when you go to lighter, you've got to take that back. You have to clean your brush every time, because if you don't, you will end up with light to dark, and the dark will then go, obviously, because you're picking colour up. So then you can mix it with a brush. I suppose I should have just done half and half. So I'll do this half and leave the other. And we wanted this to be quite dark. And this to be quite dark as well. Then we're here, it's quite light. And then I just had a touch of that green. So I've got to do this now. And then we'll just work in this one. I'll try to remember to do half and half. Again, really nice highlight. You can take it back if you're wetting this. This is nice, but we want that highlight on the top. And then you can manipulate this to be how you want. Again, you've got to come backwards because you will spread colour up and we don't want to do that. And then this one's palest here, and then just tease that to very dark. So one side is activated with water and the other side is left. That's blended pencil and that's watercolour. And then what you can do if you think, well actually I want that a bit darker, you leave the middle because you've got that gorgeous light. And we'll take our bottle green and our rose madder carmine, and you can touch the end. This is why sometimes you've got a long, now I wouldn't do this here, I'm showing you what to do. I would, if I was you, I'd do it off the page, because if you splatter you get a splatter. You touch the end and you can see there's green on there, and then you can go back in and make that just a bit richer, and then clean the brush and then blend it back. Makes it just that rich deeper. I mean, you can do whatever you want with this, but build the colour up. Now I wouldn't do this too much. This is the back cover. If you wanted to do this technique after you've done this technique, leave it overnight to dry, then you can work on it again, no problem. But if you do it the same day, you'll end up with a little bit of maybe buckling or a little bit of your page not liking it, because even though it's just barely damp, it's still watercolour. And it's the water that wrecks the pages. And again, you can blend that together. It's a pure watercolour. As long as the paper will take it, these will keep on going and going and going. So you can build it up to be really nice and rich. And then I would put a touch of burnt carmine and that's gone really, really red. So then we put a touch more, and I'm getting to the end of it's not letting me do it, but then when you put the final green over, you're going to have a really rich, deep tone that you can then take down here. And that was just adding red. And the beauty of it is it's all connected because it's two colours. It's bottle green and burnt carmine, but there's a lot of other colours in there. So you can do the same with this one. Again, don't forget to clean the brush. Twist to a baby wipe. And I find if you don't activate the end of the brush too much, just gently, it releases less water, which is perfect for colour books. So this time we want a touch of green onto here. And then we can go back in, not the burnt carmine, sorry, rose madder. So again, you've got to clean your brush because these are pure watercolours and they're very strong, but that's all you're wasting. If you were doing this with a watercolour brush, you'd be washing the brush out in a water pot and all your colours going down the toilet. So tight Yorkshire lass, that's all I'm wasting, and it actually upsets me to waste that much. But so go back to the rose madder, and now when we go over this, we can take it to there, stop, and then take it back, and we haven't lost that beautiful highlight. I'm going to do the same with the underneath because I want the underneath to be darker. So I'm going to cover that in green. Oops. And then almost pure colour here. Very rich, but I think it can take it. Now if you were on watercolour paper, you could really build that colour up to be very, very, very nice and very strong. So when we get to here, stop and then work backwards. Again, it's a watercolour. Ink tends when it's dried, it's dried. This will re-wet as many times as I want, as long as I let the paper dry. But we are on a back, so it's very good. It's almost like watercolour paper is this. If you were doing this on a page, which I might do in a second, I'll do another one. But you can build up some really nice strong colours. So if you look at this, that's what that one looks like. That's exactly the same colours, but it's rose madder number 19 and bottle green, but it's then been activated. So there's been a bit of mixing beforehand and activated, and then that's not activated. Now you can build this up, but my hands won't do that, but you can build it up. But just a water brush really makes the colours pop out, and so we end up with some really nice effects. So that's my comparison between the Derwent watercolour pencils, old and new. Thank you for watching.